Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Clear Your Path podcast. I'm your host, Daniel and today I am joined by my good friend and YouTuber, Kyren from No BS Crypto. And as some of you know, I'm really into my crypto investment. I enjoy it. I love what it's trying to do. And I came across this chap, I don't know, I think it was about a year and a half ago that I came across your channel, Kyren, and I actually loved this guy's approach. I think the way he talks about investment, the way he talks about projects in crypto is exactly, I think, what is needed. None of this sort of pump and dump, talk. He's not about that. He's in, if I was to invest in a business, then and I would look at a particular strategy, then that's the same way that I invest in crypto. And Kyren does that absolutely perfectly. So Kyren, listen, welcome to the podcast, to Clear Your Path podcast, which is all about letting go. Before we start on that, I want you to introduce yourself to the audience and tell them a little bit about yourself, your channel, and what you love actually.
Thanks, Daniel. It's good to be here. Appreciate you having me on. So my name's Kyren. I host the No BS Crypto YouTube channel. Essentially, I started the channel about 2 or so years ago because I was pretty much what you said, right? Fed up with people in the community just creating nonsense like pump and dump videos. It's a new industry, so you have a lot of people coming on and just really not knowing what they're talking about at the end of the day. So I was like, you know what? This is a good niche to jump into. I'm already in crypto. I was like, I really want to teach people and also at the same time learn myself. Actually, one of the reasons why I started was because I wanted to force myself to research. I have a bit of OCD. So for me, it's like if I'm going to put something out there, it needs to be perfect. So for me, lots of time, lots of research, and at the same time, helping people was the main reason I started the channel. And of course, hence the name No BS Crypto. So that's kind of where I started. Fast forward, here I am 2 years later. I've gone through lots of ups and downs, trying to find my niche in the market. And I think I've finally gotten there now. And along the way, we've met. And it was about a year and a half ago, I think. We've known each other for quite a while now. And it's been a good journey. So
yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And I want you to go into later on in detail about what you think crypto needs to do, the transformation that is happening from the traditional system into crypto. And I want to share your thoughts and what needs to be let go of around that. But before we talk about that, I want to ask you the first question, which is always going to be, how has letting go impacted your life?
When I first started, it was, I believe in the art of letting go. I believe in, when we've had our first call, Daniel, it was quite an eye-opener. I definitely believe in all of the universe and speaking about, talking to the universe and affirmations. And when you started teaching me it, my mind was just blown. Like literally I was amazed at how simple it can be and how much impact it can have immediately. Of course, it was always important to do it religiously, but it was almost as though on the spot through our sessions, it was like an immediate effect. I could actually tell the difference straight away. And it's something that kind of blew my mind as someone who also believes in affirmations, because I'd never had that effect before, right? I do believe in putting out, and the more you put out, or in this case, like letting go, it never really had that same effect as what it does now. And so, I was quite amazed. And it had a direct impact. Like, I mean, the stats prove for themselves. Like if you go back to when we first had a, first consult, 2 months ago, and you have a look at where I am now, the metrics don't lie. And I literally attribute that a lot to what we were doing, letting go.
That is absolutely beautiful for you to say. And I think it's really important that people understand how powerful this process is. So, and I think just, when we started talking, you used to say to me, okay, these are the blocks that I have, and what was coming up. And you were and I think for me, I felt you were very good and very open to this, which is what is needed, right? Yeah, you were very open and very honest as well.
Yeah.
So how did you feel about looking at these things when you first were you aware what you were, what was there initially?
Not really. You did a great job of like extracting that out of me. I think part of it is like I definitely had to be open to digging into my feelings and feeling uncomfortable. And that is a hard thing to do. I feel like a lot of people might not initially have that, be as willing to kind of make, become a better person, if that makes a bit of sense, like get out of their shell. Sometimes I guess it would be quite restricting, but for me, I was very open to it because I'm all about self-improving. I want to get better. And so it was a bit hard to kind of feel those emotions and sit with them for a bit. And you really do feel it in your body. And you definitely guided me through that. So so I definitely feel like it was a little bit hesitant at first, but I definitely over time, as I did it over the last few months, it's definitely come out and it's definitely gotten easier.
Yeah. And for you, what do you think was the easiest thing or maybe the hardest thing to let go of actually for you?
The hardest thing for me to let go of was the feeling of like I was probably a bit too harsh on myself. Like I needed things yesterday and I had a lot
Yeah.
of I put so much pressure on my own plate to succeed and to be someone and something so quickly that it actually was very detrimental to what I was doing. And I think time as well, time was probably on par with that, not feeling, and you know this through our conversations, pretty much every call for a while, I was uh, always stressed about time. Time was a big issue for me. And
Yeah.
now I look at time so much differently. It's not even an issue anymore. It's more of a, you know, it's just I can utilize it a lot better.
Yeah, and this is something that many people have, don't they? They have this issue with constantly pushing time. They're always impatient, and it's quite challenging. And we see this in society as well. This need to succeed, to be someone. And in many ways, we're absolutely perfect the way we are. And when we let go of the need to keep changing ourselves, then funny enough, we start to shift, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's extremely powerful. But so where do you think your journey in letting go is going to go from here?
I feel like it's going to become a state of when I feel a certain way about something, good or bad, because that's something that you taught me. If I feel like if I get too engrossed in something, like as if, for example, if I'm waking up every day and hitting 100 subscribers in 24 hours, uh, if that is a if that pretty much depicts how I feel for that day, and even if it is positive, coming back to equilibrium. So I'm pretty much going to use this every single day on everything, right? If it's a good thing or a bad thing. And it's not as though it's going to like overtake my life and everything. I've got to feel like I've got to let go of everything. But it's more so the bigger things. And I think now that I've sort of, I wouldn't say conquered, but I've definitely come to peace with a lot of the larger things, I can start to look at the micro stuff on a day-to-day basis. And if I'm stressed at work, for example, if something's really bugging me, that will be a moment I sit aside. I've got a chair I use now. I sit next to the window, get some sun, and for 10 minutes, I let it, let it sink in
Yeah,
and let it go.
yeah. I mean, you can get some sun because you're based in the place where there is
Yeah.
extra sun.
Always sunny here. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And um have you sort of shared what you know around letting go with those around you, and more specifically, have you noticed an impact in letting go with those closest to you, or have they noticed it? Share your thoughts around that.
Yeah, it's an interesting question because part of what I'm doing, I've actually distanced myself from a lot of people, mainly friends, and that's my own choice. But I do speak to one friend in particular a lot. And the minute our first consult after our first actual session, I was talking to him on the phone a couple of days later, and I was telling him about it, and I was like, "You really need to look into this." And because he's the same as me, he believes in affirmations and he believes the universe is alive, has a purpose for us. And so, yeah, he was immediately impressed. So was my parents. My parents are the same mindset. So they're very open to this. And I was telling them about it and they were quite excited for me. So, yeah, I feel like I've got a good network of people around me to be open to this sort of stuff. And I think that's a barrier to entry, right? Like people, as you were saying before a little bit, like are a little bit hesitant to the idea of it. But it's just like, if you give it that one shot, one chance or a couple of chances, and you really open yourself up to it, I feel like it's very, very profitable in every single way. So, but yeah, I've been lucky enough to have supporting friends and family.
Yeah, because you also said that, I think you said that your mum was really into her personal development when she was younger, and she probably sort of taught you, about that from an early age, which is really beautiful.
Yeah, she was always, I mean, she's right into this, like a lot more than what I am, so she will, on the way to school some mornings, well, actually probably 90% of the mornings, she would, run us through affirmations, to the power of 3 and to be open. Yeah. And everything like that. And if it wasn't to the power of 3, it was say it, but you got to believe in it. And, this is the crazy thing for me. It's like, I'm always open to this because I truly do believe in it. And I feel like once you break that barrier to entry, like what I've found doing my work, it actually pays off. Like, and anyway, I could just, you know me, Daniel, I could sit here for like half an hour, 45 minutes and just go on about how my stats actually don't lie. And it was crazy because we'd have sessions, right? And we had one session a week, as you know, and going through the session, we'd talk about something and you'd open me up about a certain problem I'd had for that last week. And then through the week, I would, let it go and think about it. And then as I got better at it during that week, the problem would actually resolve.
And it resolved of its own accord, didn't it?
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, we were talking about when we were doing our sessions, I probably started doing them a couple of months ago, but probably a month ago, we were talking about YouTube subscribers, right? And that was a big thing. I was getting like maybe if I was lucky, 100 subs a week. And that was a big thing. I was like, what's happening? Nothing's happening. Now I'm getting about 130 subs a day over the last 2 weeks.
Oh, really?
So yeah. So I've grown.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Yeah. And my Patreons, I've had a whole heap of new subscribers. I've 10, 20x my revenue on my Patreon. So yeah, I mean, completely different. So it's amazing.
Wow. So you feel like you're in a really good place?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think, what impact has the letting go sort of process had on this, with regards to your subscriber? Is it less that you care about the numbers and about, the income that you're getting, or is it more that you're like, what, I know it's going to happen? What kind of mindset do you take from this now?
It's more of a calm mindset. Like, it is going to happen. I trust myself. That was one thing we were working on, and just believing in the process. Like, I know my capabilities, I know what I'm doing, and I'm getting better every day. I feel like it's the trigger. It like triggers your mindset, and what comes after, for me, was a reflection of that change in mindset, that peace almost I came with myself, that came along with it. So it's like very easy to kind of look at, like, go through this, have that change in mindset, or constantly fix yourself, clear things, but ultimately, and then like look at the results and go, oh, it was just the results. Like, these things have happened coincidentally that have actually benefited me. But no, I think it was a shift in the mind. That's where it all stems from. So I think maybe that's kind of like where people can get a bit confused as well is, and I'm not saying it's like 100% has to be this, but if you're letting go of stuff, what I've found is, like, once, okay, twice, maybe a coincidence, 3, okay, this is getting kind of, but like every time I would let go of something, I would feel so much better and it would actually play out. So, I mean, I think it was a direct, yeah.
It's immensely. I mean, I've experienced so many benefits within my own life, and especially when I was running my first business, when I let go and, things around me would shift, people would be, nicer, I would be just more at ease, less impatient. It was just huge changes, and that really benefited, my business and just my general sense of well-being, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So yeah. So do you think it's something that could be introduced into the workplace, or would it be easily introduced into the workplace? I know you don't, you're not in a traditional sort of working environment, but I'm sure that you have. Have you worked for, in a traditional sphere, like had a 9 to 5 job?
Yeah, for too long. No. I shouldn't say that because I'm only 24. But yeah, I have. Yeah.
Because yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I worked at a bank for about 4 years, just over 4 years, and I worked in a couple of different retail jobs for about 6 years or so. Yeah.
Oh, really?
I've
Okay.
been working for
And
a
you're
long time.
24.
Yeah.
I don't,
I started midway through high school. Because I was a kid that used to play Xbox all day, and I
yeah.
was, traditional parents, they don't want you to play much video games. It's like you've got to get a job, and you can't make a living off this. And I'm going to make a living off gaming, and it was that generation, and so she's like, you need to get a job. You need to get a job ASAP. And so she knew some people from the local hardware store, and just said, get him doing something. And so yeah, she actually forced me to get a job, but it all worked out in the end, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And now you make a living out of YouTube and crypto.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about that. Tell us, because for me, crypto is a huge passion. And for anyone that doesn't know what it really is, do you want to just share your take on crypto? And just start from the beginning.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah. Just
yeah. Yeah. I can give a general sort of like crypto. The word crypto like comes from cryptocurrency, and really, without getting too into it, like what is a cryptocurrency? Well, it's just a secure currency. That's all it really is. Just you can get into cryptography and stuff like that, but more or less, it's just secure currency. And so you've got like the original Bitcoin. Bitcoin is just a very secure way you can transfer money from one person to one person without it going through a central service. So it's called peer-to-peer, me to you. And so the industry kind of flourished around the invention of Bitcoin. Bitcoin was actually created because of the GFC back in 2008. And so the inventor of that decided, look, the world needs a currency that kind of replaces all the existing systems. And so, yeah, thus the cryptocurrency phenomenon was born, I guess. A lot of different cryptocurrencies nowadays, they're so much different to Bitcoin in that they're actually, what they essentially are is a digital computer. You can think of a computer as hardware. You have all the different components. Imagine that, but digitized and on the cloud, if you will. And so people can build applications on top of this and leverage this decentralized network, or it's a computer basically. Obviously, you have different networks doing different things and applications built on these decentralized networks doing different things. But for the most part, you have it's an amazing sector, because if you truly look into it, if you really spend the time to kind of like letting go, like actually give yourself some time to look into it and give it a shot, you'll be surprised. Like everyone I know that's looked into it has gone down the same rabbit hole. Like you cannot not do it. And so essentially, it's just going to be the new world, right? Because the whole world is essentially moving away from centralization, or at least a lot of people believe in that. So I think you have to have that mindset coming into it. You pretty much have to be against any centralized power, which is natural, I think, human nature. I think that's how we evolved. So yeah, that's essentially cryptocurrency.
So ultimately, you're from the letting go aspect, it's a moving away from the traditional way of doing things, which is centralized, which is sort of permissioned. For example, in cryptocurrency, you can invest in whatever project you want, but in the traditional financial system, you can't do that, can you? You have to belong to maybe a certain group of people, certain category of wealth. But with crypto, it's open to everyone, isn't it?
Yeah. And if you're smart, I mean, they're all just decentralized ledgers. So you think of a ledger as just a bunch of transactions on a list, and it just tracks a whole bunch of those over time. So if you know what you're doing, you can track some important and crazy stuff. Obviously, you don't know who's who. That's the beauty of it, but it's all there for the public, you know?
Yeah. And when you say you don't know who's who, what do you mean by that?
So you can see the accounts. So there's always a distinct account name. It's a bunch of random numbers, letters, uppercase, lowercase. But if you create an account, it's always the same on one particular network, right?
Mhm.
So for example, if you had an account and you told me what your account exact numbers and letters were, I can match that up and go, okay, Daniel's bought or sold X amount of Bitcoin, send it to this, and I can trace it all the way back. And even if you're smart enough, you can trace it all the way to an exchange. And then if I didn't know who you were, for an example, and I was just tracing around someone's information, if you transfer that off the decentralized network, you can find out who it is through KYC. Because the minute you go from decentralized to centralized and it involves KYC, you can find out who that person is. But essentially, yeah, you can trace who's who based off the account number.
Yeah. So ultimately, so you have this a mainstream narrative which says that it's used by sort of the dark forces. It's, you know, it's difficult to trace, but it's the exact opposite, really, isn't it? You can see every transaction that happens. You can see what goes on. You can see, you know, but you just don't know who's identified to that, right?
That's right.
Which is actually pretty, you know, pretty amazing. The whole, I mean, for me, I'm just amazed by what has been designed here. You know, Satoshi Nakamoto with his, you know, original white paper. I feel that was just a huge leap, and I feel that it's going to replace the centralized systems eventually.
Yeah.
But I think there's going to be a lot of pushback.
I do too. I think moving into 2025, I believe that we are going to find more regulation, and the SEC is kind of coming after a lot of cryptocurrencies now. They're just name dropping at the moment, I think. But essentially, until there is a framework in place, they report this year it will come out. I don't know how true that is. But when this framework comes out, I think, and the markets can be therefore regulated on some level, and I think I've got an idea of how, then we'll find it being adopted in the mainstream. Then people will feel more confident in using it. Right now, it's predominantly used by, the word we use is degen, right? Degenerates. It's just a buzzword. But people who just want to come in here and get Lamborghinis, you know, the whole story. But people don't tell you, you know, most of those people, I mean, this is who I'm trying to teach. You know, I'm trying to teach these types of people the art of strategic investing, making the right choice, almost like a swing trader on a very large scale. So, yeah.
So investing for long term. Long term. Well, because there are a lot of projects which are doing some amazing things. And you know, these individual projects are going to change the landscape of, you know, the traditional systems that perhaps they're competing against. So you know, for me, one of the projects that comes to mind is Stratos. I know you've covered it, and actually that's where I came across Stratos on your channel.
Oh wow.
I researched the project after your, you know, great advice, you know, the way you went about, you know, describing how to research. And I came across this project and I loved what it was doing, sort of a decentralized AWS. And I just felt that it was one project which is revolutionizing how the traditional sphere works.
It's a great project. I haven't researched Stratos in a very long time. You know, believe it or not, I've had a lot of people request another review of it. I think it's about time I do. But yeah, it's a fantastic project, I think. And that's the beauty of it, right? Imagine a decentralized AWS, or like Flux is another example of that, you know, or even a recent project I've reviewed. It's slipping my mind now. Render. You know, these projects can compute, you know, renders, 3D renderings of stuff, like anything that requires lots of expensive hardware that is becoming harder to find, and or requires you to go into a studio of some sort and pay lots of money. It can all be done from your home now for cheap too. So it's like, that's the real beauty of cryptocurrencies, moving past just transactions, moving past Bitcoin, moving into a world where you can sit in your own home, as much as that sounds like the movie WALL-E, and just transfer. And you know, we'll be scooting around on scooters soon. But I think it's really unlocks the power. You know, it's true borderless economy.
Yeah. And what do you think, these individual projects, what do you think are the biggest challenges that they face?
Yeah, good question. I would probably say, speaking of regulation, I would probably say regulation is the hardest one right now for us. I think once we overcome regulation, we'll find that a lot of the cryptocurrencies that have tailored themselves towards being very simple for the mass market to use, because cryptocurrency is extremely difficult to understand, especially when you move off exchanges onto the actual networks. It is very complicated to understand. So I feel like once we overcome regulation and it's, you know, widely accepted, the networks use focusing on UX, UI, keeping things nice and simple will flourish. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that it's not going to be an easy path?
No. Yeah, easier said than done, that's for sure.
Yeah. Because regulation is a tricky one, isn't it? Ultimately, you want to make things fair, you want to protect people, but at the same time, you don't want to limit innovation.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
maybe a certain sort of regulatory body in the US seems to like be on the attack at the moment against crypto. So, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's like that big cloud looming over our head. It's like, when will it strike next? When will that lightning attack? I feel like it's going to be overcome. It's just a matter of time, and people need to understand like the horizon of investment is a lot larger than what they think. You know, often we can use the example of the analogy of crypto is right now, it's pretty much a child, right? Or an adolescent child. Where we're going, we need to be a 90-year-old man, like the stock market, right? And to get to that stage, it's going to be a lot of trials, tribulations, lots of projects are going to go collapse, lots of Terra Lunas.
Mm-hmm.
So there's pretty much hell to go through yet. And I think people kind of forget that. And I don't blame them, because it's easy to do that. Once you're in the space, I mean, you'll know this, Daniel, when you're in the space, it's very easy to be like narrow-sighted and forget about that. But it's like, take a step back, look at it and go, my God, like all the projects we know and we love, including Ethereum, even Bitcoin to some degree, nothing is finished. There's always upgrades happening. No network is so-called truly decentralized because they aren't in their final form yet. They aren't able to be accepted by the mass markets. They'll just implode if that happens. So lots of time yet. Yeah.
There's definitely, Ethereum with its gas fees, and there's also certain estate bloat as well. There's a lot of challenges that are there to be solved, and some of the newer chains are coming up and solving these issues, and so moving on to the letting go theme, what do you think needs to be let go of
in crypto? A lot. I think we've spoken about this before, and that's definitely FOMO. And you mentioned this to me actually, and I kind of sat with it, and I thought, that is extremely important. I think if people got over FOMO, the market would be so much better already. People wouldn't be getting wrecked. People wouldn't be buying at the top. So I feel like if people can have that feeling of FOMO let go, also the feeling of urgency, just breathe. So I feel like that's very important.
So for those of you that don't know what FOMO is fear of missing out, because that's a common almost every cryptocurrency sort of Telegram group you go to is like FOMO this, FOMO that. I got FOMO when I came into this project. I had FOMO when someone told me about this project. It's just such a common theme of crypto. And to process the emotions around FOMO is so key to your investing strategy, right? Because when you can clear any fear felt to completion will eventually dissolve, and then an insight and intuition about what to do will eventually come. And I feel that from a letting go perspective, if so many investors knew how to let go of FOMO, like you said, it would be a completely different sphere. People would see more clearly about their project, about what's happening. But it is what it is, isn't it?
Well, that's right. It is what it is at the moment, and this is what you were saying before, like, if like how do you, approaching this from like how can we get the mass market, if you will, most of the crypto population, the degens, how can we get them to start recognizing this? Because ultimately it's 90% of the crypto population right now. And it's kind of the reason why the industry is so tarnished, if I do say so. So I think like it's important for you to like be doing this podcast. And it's why I'll definitely push people over, because the more people that know about this and the more people that give it a go, the better. Because yeah, like, we talk about maybe doing it for a number of Patreon members, for example, or whatever it might be. But no matter what happens, I think people need to just give it a shot, because it would be a different market if so. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. I feel that way as well, and even the introducing the process of letting go to the individual projects would help as well. Yeah, because
Yeah.
The people running the projects, they all have their fears, they all have their concerns, and ways of working on the project. And when you can clear any of the anxieties around that, then your ability to see where the project should go is improved.
Yeah.
So that's extremely powerful. So moving on, tell us a little bit more about your sort of channel, and what's going to happen in the future for it. Where do you want to go?
Where do I want to go? My goal's always been just literally trying to help the most amount of people. And for me, as obvious as this might sound, you can only help as many people that watch your videos. So for me, it's like I need to get the views. And like, look, obviously money's great. Let's just like cut the crap real quick. Money's great. Views are what bring the money in. I need to put food on the table as well. But, well, YouTube doesn't pay that much money anyway. But ultimately it's like I really want this space to change. Like I know for a bit there I was doing YouTube videos, and I was I always reach out to the team of projects, no matter how big or small, and I say, hey, can you guys review the technical details and also some of the stuff that is just facts, right? Not my opinions, just the facts, because I want people to come to the channel and know, okay, it's no BS crypto. What he's saying is true. And like all the videos I create, no matter how fast or short or long, I always make sure the information I provide is 100% correct, So for me, it's like that is the channel. The channel is no BS crypto. People can come over and feel like they can trust what I say, so that they don't have to spend as much time on crypto as possible. This is my full-time job. My job is to help people and to provide the information that I don't have time for, because I don't know if you know this, Daniel, but when I first started crypto, I lost tens of thousands of dollars because I was listening to YouTubers and they were saying, go buy this crypto, it'll never be this price again. Little did I know that was YouTube. That's the atmosphere in this space. It's just tell people to buy, don't worry about the consequence. Yeah, FOMO. It's like make them feel that lizard brain FOMO. And usually because they're trying to fill their own bags, right? But so yeah, I lost a lot of money in that sense. And so like ever since then, I was like, no, I really just need to talk to people, tell them, I might so-called clickbait or extend the truth, let's just say, on some of the titles and thumbnails. But when they're on the video, they're going to learn more than one or two things for sure.
Yeah, no, well said. But the sort of trajectory of crypto as it's happening now is similar to what happened during the dot-com boom, where initially when the internet first came out mainstream, there were lots of these sort of websites that had no real sort of business model behind them. And, they were just built on hype. And I think investors will pour their money into them. And then because they had no real business, sort of they would inevitably crash. And only the ones which had a proper business model survived. And I think exactly the same thing is happening with crypto at the moment. You have these coins which are just hyped coins. They have no utility, no real purpose, and people are just getting in there. It's just like a pack of I don't know what to call it. It's just sorry,
pack of wolves.
Yeah, exactly. And you're just everyone's in on it. Yeah. What was it, to the moon and when moon and
yeah.
It's quite funny in a way. It is. You can see why so many people are enticed by it.
Yeah.
and so many people join it, but people do get wrecked. People get, yeah. So
Yeah. No, I was going to say the way I see it is like it's it's advanced gambling. Like when you get that first bite of luck, or when you make that first 10x and you see like, oh my god, like my $1,000 has turned into $10,000. I now have tangible $10,000. That is an immediate feeling of, okay, now I need to go out and get this $10,000 and just throw it all on one project again and hope it goes 10x to 100 grand. Then it's a million, and then you lose it all. So yeah, for sure. It's like a frenzy.
yeah, it can, but you can use a strategic approach to, to making investments, right? Because, if you research the projects and you see, okay, what is it trying to achieve? What's the vision? Who are the team? Who's invested in it? All of those factors, and you combine them together, and then you may think, well, actually, this is like a really good business that you can invest in. It's got great people, a great vision, and the chances are, nothing's ever guaranteed, but these projects here could really do well, and especially when you see perhaps they're building a decentralized web browser or whatever it is. But yeah, definitely.
The way I see it, I think a good way to describe it is like, imagine if you could see Microsoft when or Apple when it was first starting. You've got, what do you got to look at? You don't have any track history to really go off. You've got the team, which essentially steer the hypothetical ship. You've got the idea, which we're going to call the meme. And then from there, you got funding. Okay, do the big guys or the venture capitalists believe in the project? Not all the time. It's a lot of the time it's important, but not all the time. And then from there, you begin to go around this circle where it's like, okay, so do people like third-party developers find it interesting? And it's like, we clearly have a very good look at this. We can see it because a part of crypto, the great thing is it's all transparent. At least that's the sort of standard. So all these projects, they have roadmaps. A lot of them are very clear and concise. So we can see at certain points in time when they expect to finish big milestones. So I'm working on a project right now called Near Protocol. And Near Protocol has pretty much the largest upgrade, which is essentially it's their whole USP, unique selling point, launching in about a couple of years around the bull market, right? So it's like you can see these things thanks to the crypto's transparency. So it's like, you're right. It's like investing in a business. And you've just got to have the knowledge, the conviction to go, this is a good project. I just have to hold it for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, yeah. And patience, they call sort of patient investors diamond hands, don't they, in crypto?
Yeah.
It's one of the terms they use, diamond hand, you're a diamond hand investor. And there's lots of these little terms in crypto, isn't there?
Oh, saturated. Yeah, you just go to any YouTube comment section on any crypto video, and you'll find them all.
Yeah, exactly. But Kyren, listen, thank you so much for joining me on this podcast, and thank you for sharing, your experience with letting go and your wisdom about crypto. So, if people want to find you in the future, where can they do so?
Yeah, just YouTube. It's just No BS Crypto, NOBS Crypto. Exactly the same thing for Twitter. So look for the blue check mark. There's lots of scams out there.
Yeah, and we'll put a link down on the description, and then you can take a look. And really, I advise all of you, if you're getting started into crypto and you want to really a good way of professionally investing, subscribe to take a look at Kyren's YouTube channel. I think it's probably the best of its kind out there.
Thank you.
And I have no doubt that at some point, you're going to just blow up. So that I'm really looking forward to it, and I really hope letting go can help you on that journey as well. So thank you again for joining us.
Thanks, Daniel. It's been a pleasure, and yeah, looking forward to future conversations.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.